So this is Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 2018 Innovation Award winner, 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner, given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. I also co-host and co-produce the only online show in the world for dads, fathers, and male caregivers that is sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. And as always, I'd like to say that is how many? We've reached out directly and indirectly to over 400,000 dads, fathers, and male caregivers around the world. So as always, I'd like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. And good afternoon, Cesar.
Good afternoon, Dr. Vibe. Good afternoon, sisters and brothers and allies. Thank you
Hold
for
on here.
supporting
Everything's
us.
happening here. All right, everything's going on here today. It's been a while since I've had to produce and do all this stuff, so my apologies. You can go again, sir.
Adaptation. No, I was just saying hi to our sisters, brothers, and allies, and always thanking them for joining us. And for joining us not only in conversation, but also in reflection, and hopefully, to take the conversation and reflection and turn it into concrete action.
Great, great, great. You know, a few months ago, you said it was going to be a long, hot summer.
Hmm. And that said, winter is coming. And truthfully, I mean, we will talk about it, but honestly, it's further gearing up towards it. Kind of in a game of chess, the pieces are being put in place for what many are starting to see is an escalating tension, a crisis being manufactured, and yeah, yeah, worrisome times.
I
Worrisome
hear
times.
you. Let me ask, what memories do you have of this summer? Like outside of social political, any? I know you had a trip. Did you not go on?
Yes, we went to France, to Paris for a family wedding. We did that, but I mean, especially as summer is ending, um, earlier this week, the pride of this father that I am to see his daughter go to school for the first time. So
Oh, very nice.
me and mom being there at the first day we took her in, the second day we walked her to the bus stop for her to get on the yellow school bus at 4 years old. She did great. She did great.
Well, I would. Well, look who her dad and mother is. So I don't expect anything less.
Thank you. Very generous. Yeah, no. Great kids. And yeah, the kids are, children are our future. Children are our future.
Definitely. How has it been in your area, Ottawa, over the summer? Has it been quiet?
Well, for me, I would say it's been quiet, but to be fair, I'm so often out of town due to
True.
work. I've been overwhelmed with work, and unfortunately, it has made it that I've been delayed in other professional projects. But from being out to conferences and talks. And of course, I also do documentation reviews and editing, etc. So lots of work. And again, it comes down to, no relationship is perfect, but it's great to have a partner who supports you and thus you are able to focus and succeed professionally and as well in your private life. I'm speaking to you right now from one of my friends' house, where family barbecue upstairs, and I take a moment for the show. I'm in the basement in his office because ultimately it's for the people and by the people.
So true. But do you make time? I was going to say, do you make time to rest? Because it's so interesting. Because it seems you're busier now than you ever have been.
I've been um, I've been myself surprised by how busy this summer has been, especially the second part of the summer. But time for myself, I think it's important. I mean, I am an advocate for going to the gym, working out. Like I told maybe 2, 3 days ago, I sent a message to a couple of friends telling them, we're all getting older, but we can still choose how we want to age, how we want to be older. So I always been an advocate since my 20s of feeding your body, aka
Mm-hmm.
the gym and what you eat, all that stuff. And I'm not a vegan or whatever health guru, but go to the gym, be mindful still of what you eat, but also feed your brain. That's the biggest muscle. Feed your brain, but also feed your soul. Feed your soul, be involved, show that you care, dare to be the person who will stand up, the person who will speak up, and be the person you claim to be, not just in the mirror, but especially in front of other people. So, yeah, I take time for myself, not only the gym, resting. As much as possible, I put my daughter to bed. It helps, especially for someone so often out of town as I
Mm-hmm.
am. Sometimes it can only be half an hour truly at the most, but before this little person was my daughter goes to bed. So the importance of putting to bed. But I have to say this very importantly, and we're going to talk about it in our segment regarding returning to school. But for our brothers and of course for our sisters, the importance of the partner that you're with. Um, too many of our brothers, and I know we may have a conversation, a show regarding gender relations in the Black community,
I think that's an
but
important topic.
but too many of our brothers seek the so-called submissive female as per religious books. And I fundamentally disagree with that notion. But part of the reason I disagree with it is also because whenever you have someone submissive, too often what ends up happening is that you tend to get your way. It creates an imbalance. And one of the things that happened, me having always opposed that, I would not be able to be as good of a father as I am. And of course, I'm far from perfect, but I wouldn't be as good as I am if I didn't have a solid partner who would remind, reinforce, call me out on, you know, my public speech and maybe lacking in private on certain things. Like I give you an example, putting my daughter to bed. I am not from a generation where fathers put their children to bed. And it would
Mm.
make a lot more sense rationally to me to come home and sit in front of the TV, watch the news, eat,
Mm-hmm.
instead of coming home and taking the time that it takes to put the child to bed. And we have to give credit to more men, and notably black men, as studies are confirming that black men are more involved than any other race of fathers in terms of caring for the child. It's not a competition, and it's beyond race. It's about fatherhood. But let's not forget, let's not be hypocrites. Which race of men has the most been uh, uh, insulted in regards to fatherhood?
Mm-hmm.
Black men. Just as in terms of motherhood, black women and indigenous women have greatly been looked down upon. So, uh, the importance of the partner, my brothers, my sisters, really, really makes a big difference. One last thing I will say, it's really like we're having a segment on this, but one last thing I will say, I believe it's Warren Buffett who had said it, and I'm not a fan of Warren Buffett. It's not about Warren Buffett per se, but Warren Buffett has said the most important investment you can make is not so much the house, the car, or even your stock market investment. The most important investment you can make is who is your partner,
Mm-hmm.
who is laying next to you on a continuous basis, and furthermore, who do you share? Do you tell your secrets? And let's be honest, billionaires also divorce. Who is likely to have your children 50% of the time, if not much more, as is usually the case. The quality of the partner makes a big difference. And I'm far from perfect, neither is my partner, my spouse, but
You can
um,
include me. I don't do threesomes, but you can include me in those that those two.
but
Two.
Dr. Vibe, Dr. Vab, like I tell her, I mean, for a man who's so often out of town, so often in hotels as I am, can you imagine if I
Yeah.
were to
No,
be
yeah,
expected to
oh,
be
man.
a
You know,
professional at some hotel and wondering what's going on in my home with my
you,
child and all that?
it's interesting you're saying that the investment of in relationships is the biggest relationship we make, biggest investment you'll make in your life. Um, Geez, we could go. We'll have to bring up another. There's a number of stories that have come to my mind there, but I'll just hold pat because there's a. Yeah, we'll just leave it at that. We'll just leave
Yes,
it at
yes,
that
yes,
because I know
yes.
you don't have a lot of time today. So you know what? What we're gonna do, family? We're gonna take a break. We'll come back in about 30 seconds, and we'll do some house stuff, and then we'll get into our topics on this segment of Black Canada Talking, where Black Canadians give their takes and POVs of stuff going on local, national, provincial, international. We'll be right back. So we have Primetime Saturday with Aisha and Lala. But
Will some of these places stand up and say, no, you can't come to our country? Because if they set that precedent, you might as well set the world on fire.
Right. He literally wrote an executive order defining what womanhood is.
This is the times that we live in now, y'all. You can either be mad about it and make yourself sick, or you can decide what you're going to do with your life and make it positive.
All right, that's Primetime Saturday. Live Saturday afternoons, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. And the ladies want you back, Cesar.
Oh,
They want you back. I've been putting out a number of shorts on YouTube and Blue Sky, and they are loving it. So we're gonna be knocking at your door in the very near future to join them on another conversation if you're up to it.
with pleasure, with pleasure.
All right,
I
so
very much enjoy my time with the ladies.
let's do some house stuff. So as always, if you would like to subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show, you can subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube, preferably. Subscribe and hit the notification button. Also, like the Dr. Vibe Show on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, and Substack. Also, to subscribe to if you want to promote your business, product, or service on any of the platforms that we're on, please feel free to email me at dr.vibe at the dr, vibeshow.com. Cannot forget our good friend Dr. Tachi, who was actually on Primetime Saturday yesterday, and she was fire as always. She runs a great platform called Indie Soup Media that has about 25 independent content creators and about 18, 19 months on YouTube, almost 28,000 subscribers, and a lot of the content that I do is also on her platform. So make sure you check that out. And also, too, if you want to get a hold of Cesar, and I think you should, because I think it's going to make you better and may also make you smarter too. Email address president at Roots and Culture Canada. Also, his Facebook address is there. Also, if you're watching this live on the replay, if you have a smartphone, you can just swipe the QR code there and it'll take you right to his Facebook page. So you have that also. And another thing I want to just chat about today that we have, and we haven't had it yet, but I hope one day it does come to us. If you want to call in during a live show, we can do that now. Whether you have a smartphone, laptop, desktop, tablet, I don't know what else, but there's two ways you can do it. First of all, you can go to your favorite web browser and go to callme.rode.com, or if you have a smartphone, you can swipe the QR code. When you get to the next screen, you'll be asked to put in a code. There's a code that's already there. Don't worry about that. Just type in the code FSPL8L and then put in your name and it'll say join conversation and I will see that you are calling in. So that feature is available going forward on all live Dr. Vibe show hosted conversations. So I just wanted to bring that up, and I'm speaking that we'll have that happening sooner rather than later. But let's get down to business. Cesar has a lot of things to talk about at the end of a hot summer. So first things first, Canadian Prime Minister Carney announces that Canada is dropping many of the regulatory tariffs on U.S. goods. And I've spoken to some people about this. Actually, last night, Aisha and Dr. Tach saying they were disappointed that Carney was backing down. And the way to fight 47 is go at it in light of the federal court saying that was it just the past Friday saying that what he did with the terrorists is illegal. Too much me talking. Time to have Cesar come on in on this. Go ahead, Cesar.
Goodbye. I agree. It is disappointing. What happened to elbows up? Is it now elbows down? As Mr. Poiliev, who won his very safe election in Alberta, was talking about, criticizing Prime Minister Carney. So I understand everybody being disappointed, but we also have to be honest. America is 10 times the population of Canada, and truthfully, in terms of size of the economy, it is not comparable. I am not so much disappointed by Prime Minister Carney, it's notably because uh, the message has been, how can I put it? I think this Canadian patriotism, confused with nationalism, but Canadian patriotism has gone beyond economics. And when we see example in terms of alcohol sales, such as Jack Daniels and hard liquor, it has had a strong impact upon American companies. When we see the impact in terms of travel regarding retaliation that people took individually to be boycotting the United States, it has had an impact. But we also have to be realistic that it's very hard to think you can play on an equal footing with your next door neighbor, and truthfully, your only next door neighbor, who is that much bigger than you are. It is unequal. It would be one thing if Canada and Mexico share the border and both of them share the border with the United States. The geopolitics and geographic conversation could be quite different. This is not the case. And it's further not the case because the potential allies of Canada, the main potential allies, notably in terms of culture and history, are the European Union. The European Union also backed down to the United States. I forget her specific title, but I believe it's the president of the European Commission, technically the boss of the European Union, Ursula von der Leyen, disappointed many when she ended up agreeing to Trump's tariff in terms of negotiations to the value of 15%, if I don't get my number wrong. But at the same time, I'm saying this, we have to understand what happened in the US, notably this federal court judge deeming that most of Trump's tariffs are illegal. And this is something very important to understand as a criticism, I would say, to Canada, the European Union, but also Democrats and people who are standing for social justice and progress. The federal judgment regarding the illegality of most of Trump's tariffs are made in in a sense of assuming the other party is still playing by the rules. Trump does not play by the rules. So it doesn't matter that they deemed it illegal. As they already said, they'll go to the Supreme Court. Trump was saying this even during the campaign last year to uh, basically create a state of constant stress upon the judicial body. And by having stacked up the Supreme Court, remember one of the four men that are blamed for Trump is Justice Roberts. By having stacked up the Supreme Court, he's literally, and I know it's our next one of our segments to come. Trump authoritarian measures. That's what he's doing. So I don't think that we should so too much blame the Prime Minister Carney because ultimately Trump is here for 3.5 more years unless he finds some loophole or creates a big enough crisis to stay past 2028. But Canada has to go on beyond 2028. And unfortunately, you should not cozy up to a bully. But unless you have strong enough allies to stand by your side, to stand up to the bully, majority of humans will fall to a bully.
Do you and I think he announced, I don't know if he did this on purpose, but it was announced on a Friday, which is usually quote a slower news day. I don't hear a lot of Canadians even talking about it.
There were some statistics. I can't remember exactly, and I apologize. We are Sunday. All the different things that I do, but I believe it was Mr. Nick Nanos, founder and chief scientist of Nanos Research. It was either, or there was some survey. I can't remember if it's Nanos, Gallup, or Leger.
Probably Nanos. Gallup is US based.
Ah, okay. Something about majority of Canadians are not so upset about it because the reality is that America is that much bigger that it becomes hard to go head to head. Now, some people are mischaracterizing Prime Minister Carney in terms like Poiliev, of course, in terms of he's abandoning Canada. But if I'm not mistaken, he had clearly said, "Yeah, we can go head to head and put retaliatory tariffs, but it has to be in a certain measured way because." You know, it's not an equal competition. China and the US can go head to head. Canada is not the size of China from demographics to economy, and definitely not in terms of military to go head to head against China, against the USA. So I think when I look notably at someone like Premier, the Ontario Prime Minister Doug Ford, the rhetoric has been there. There's an elevated of patriotic consciousness, and for the average Canadian, this is not to say nobody is going to the US. I mean, we may go to the US, etc. But this is to understand that there has been an affirmation of Canadian pride which very happily is going beyond the field of what you call hockey, such as supporting the Canadian team, but really in terms of people spending of the precious Canadian dollar to support Canadian made, Canadian grown, Canadian economy and the Canadian nation. And this sends a message Donald Trump because so many, I believe, it's two-thirds of American states have for number one economic partner Canada,
True.
and definitely you see, and definitely those those states that are bordering the Canadian border, there is a message that has been sent. It is hurting the pockets, but most importantly, in terms of the Canadian economy, but also in regards to geostrategy, it is the diversification of allies, the diversification of partners. Prime Minister Carney was in Poland. He has gone. He met other world slash EU leaders to diversify, and this is something Canada has needed. You cannot and you must not become so comfortable, even in a long term relationship, to surprise yourself that someone as Trump, he has all the flaws that you want, but at least let's be honest about him. He has had the honesty of previously telling you ahead of what he would do. He has clearly said it, talking about being the retribution, talking about the tariffs, talking about, I mean, America first, Trump first, but still, we see the turnout of his policies.
Who would you trust more in these trade negotiations, Mr. Polyev or Mr. Carney, or somebody else?
But to vibe, let us speak very honestly, and this is very much a follow up to our last conversation 2 weeks ago. You did ask me a very interesting question about whether I think it was whether a conservative would welcome me to the home, or if I would welcome, like I said, welcoming a conservative in my house. I cannot support Mr. Poiliev not because of any enmity towards this person. I have nothing against him as a person because I do not know. However, I cannot support someone who does not recognize systemic racism. This is not a conversation in terms of me being an idiot professional or social justice warrior, etc. No, it's a matter of stand. It's a matter of principle, and it's a matter of as a black community leader and a black what I teach my child and others. I have more faith, if we can put it this way, in the expertise of Prime Minister Carney, who actually does have an expertise in regard to economics, than someone who has had the privilege, and I'm not taking anything away from him, but the privilege of being an MP since his mid 20s. I mean, I would ask people, would you really trust me to direct the nation's efforts when truthfully I've never had a true job per se? Now, if you ask me, there's always a third option. And my third option is times Prime Minister Doug Ford. If there were federal
Interesting.
elections in Canada tomorrow and Doug Ford decided to run for Prime Minister, I absolutely assure you that he would win. I don't have,
Do
I do
you
not have any doubt that Doug Ford
do you
could
think he
and
could?
will become Prime Minister of Canada.
Do you
If
think
he
he could
should
win over the West? Because the West is this is just another Ontario guy, and he's very wants to push back against the U.S. Where a lot of Albertans would say no.
To what extent did Carney needed the West in order to become Prime Minister?
True, true, good point. But I don't know who I was chatting with the other day, and I said, you know what? I have a feeling something wouldn't surprise me if Doug Ford wanted to run for the leadership because I was reading before we went live today a recent poll. Mr. Polyev is not liked by Canadians.
He is not liked by Canadians, and even the fact this move of being nominated, elected in a very safe riding in Alberta, it comes off cheap. It's a slap in the notion of democracy. What's the point of in your own riding making you lose if you can just, well, you know what, a couple of months down the road, I go to this other place and I still get a seat. That basically makes the vote of his riding in Ottawa be nullified. It didn't matter. So the very principle brings a stain to his re-election, which he embraced. And again, a reminder, what other job does he do then? What other job did he have? Like normally, I lost the election, I go back to being a lawyer, I go back to being a taxi driver, an entrepreneur, running my business, I'm going back to school. You know what I mean? But no. So Mr. Poiliev has a strong dislike factor to him. Mr. Ford re-elected third term as Prime Minister of Ontario, and having come with what I would call a mantle of Mr. Canada, Captain Canada. Sorry, I should say the strong rhetoric that he's had, but also the measures that he's put in place, the boycott of American alcohol, and the strong rhetoric he's had, even on American channels in regard to Donald Trump. We cannot look that down. We cannot look that down. And I'm telling you, unlike someone like Mr. Poiliev, Doug Ford has recognized systemic racism. Doug Ford, being a conservative, actually gets voted by not only racial minorities, religious minorities, but even francophones vote for Doug Ford. This is quite a rare feat in our times of divided politics in the Western world and even here in Canada.
It's true. It's true. He's a lot of people look at him as Captain Canada, and it'll be interesting
Absolutely.
if he decides ever to run. It'll be very interesting to see how that goes.
And let's not forget, Doug Ford legitimately was a businessman
Yes.
before becoming a politician. So we
Yep.
can dislike him on many fronts. But even speaking of his brother, his deceased brother, Rob Ford, and his antics and etc., we cannot deny these men will prove themselves before becoming politicians.
Very true.
Yeah, as I said, being a
It-
sitting MP since your mid 20s, or we look at Mr. Carney, who cannot escape being seen as an elitist from the very start. Bank of England, Bank of Canada, you name it,
right. 100%.
hanging over his head.
It's going to be interesting to see how this trade thing goes on. It's far, far from over.
Far from over. And the trade aspect, let's not forget something very important. And even you never get bored when Trump is on TV because you never know what may come. Apprentice all every week, but Trump said it himself. When he brought forth the notion of tariffs that literally gave a percentage boost and brought down Poilievre. It did cost him. So conservative can argue all they want about seats gained and everything else. Trump and his tariffs did have an impact on Canadian elections. We must not deny such. But in that very conversation, truthfully, we do have the Prime Minister of Canada, Mr. Carney, that I have more trust in his ability to navigate this. Doesn't mean you have to appreciate or like every decision that he makes, but trust that he's more competent. He's more competent than I am. Why would I say the opposite? But we also have the person who rose to the occasion, rose to the call, Captain Canada, that I would see as Ontario Prime Minister Doug Ford.
The only rules. Oh, that's interesting, Kat. That's really, really is going to be down. But I'm just going to watch Doug because, again, too, Doug Ford was elected for a third time as premier in Ontario. That's unprecedented.
That's unprecedented. And like I said earlier, that only would happen because he's had racial minorities, religious minorities, and even francophones who have voted for him.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, we'll see what goes on. I don't think we've heard the last of people's thoughts on the backing down on this trade thing, but who knows?
Dr. Vibe, winter is coming. The
Thank you.
Christmas gift, the Christmas
Okay.
expenses, the new year after the credit card bills will come. This is when you will really feel the impact of the tariffs.
Got it.
Summer is over. And this is also why 2026 midterm elections, I'm really delving into the American topic. They're trying to pass the hard pill to swallow upon Americans before the midterms.
Okay, let's
Because
let's
it's
let's
after that that
let,
the
let's go into our
topics
next
will.
topic. Let's go into our
Yeah,
next topic.
yeah,
This makes sense. So, next conversation piece is 47's rising authoritarianism. So, go into it, Cesar.
well, it's truly as a continuation. So it is easy to see me coming here talking about from redistricting, but Democrats have also done redistricting in regards to elections. But with Trump, it is in the way that things are done. We can talk about ICE agents and immigration policy, from masked men not identifying themselves. But let us not forget something here. We can absolutely and we should point the finger at Donald Trump when we remember how he was speaking about our Haitian brothers and sisters as eating dogs and cats. FYI, I am born in a country where some people do eat dogs and cats. So, dear overly sensitive people and pet owners, calm down. Okay, when there is a famine in the Western world, people did eat dogs and cats in the 19th and 20th century. But Donald Trump saying that this is in an America where you've had presidents such as George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, who were slave owners. But he doesn't. Obama deported more people, if I'm not mistaken, deported the most people illegal migrants out of any president. But it was not in this spectacular TV sensation like model as Trump is aiming for in terms of, the very reality of demographic changes. We must also talk about how Donald Trump is not so much sending national troops, National Guard troops in cities so much for the crime and violence when uh, in red states you have cities that have even more crime and violence, but he's not sending National Guards there. He's only sending them in blue states and notably cities that have challenged him openly. But again, let us be careful here. Where there is violence such as murder, homicide, rape, theft, one does not think of the greater situation of others. They think about their reality, aka a relative or someone close committed a homicide. Now there's more police or security on the street. We feel safer. Dr. Vibe, I am telling you, it's a hot summer. It's not over. What are the possibilities that Donald Trump is maxing out National Guards in main cities in blue
Oh yeah. Well,
states
he's
in the
already said
prevention?
his next target is Chicago.
And not only that, Trump was greatly insulted, offended by what happened 5 years ago. 5 years ago, what happened in the summer? It was a hot summer 5 years ago, 2020. Global protests against systemic racism, hashtag Black Lives Matter,
Right.
hashtag George Floyd. This man, this white supremacist, this convicted felon of a president, against Trump, this is all factually proven. I can also add the notions of convicted of sexual, I forget the full specific term, but technically rapist, thief, fraudster, etc. He is manufacturing a crisis situation in terms of protests in these blue cities against his regime, which I truly think can lead us not only to a state where for many people it may come to be seen as normal, but on the other side, such as the riots in the 60s in terms of civil rights, but also the riots in the 70s, early 70s in regards to Vietnam. I have every reason to think Trump is manufacturing crisis to lead to 2028 and remain in power because technically, as long as he's president, he's covered notably by the Supreme Court. If he's no longer president, I don't think the Democrats would be stupid enough to repeat the failure, the abysmal failure that they did as of 2021 in wasting 4 years and not having had this man put in jail. So Trump knows the calculation. He has to remain president. It's the same reason why January 6, 2021 happened. Is the Democrats were pathetically weak despite everything and all the proof. And it's not just the former the head of justice, the Justice Department, Mary Garland. It's Biden as well. Just as on the Republican side, Mitch McConnell, just as Supreme Court Justice Roberts. It's the combination of all of them. Trump got extremely lucky. He knows 2026, the midterm elections, that's why the redistricting is happening. There's a context to this. But 2028, the man needs to die. I mean, as an African, and I'm born in the country, Cameroon, that has the longest ongoing serving president / dictator Paul Biya has been in power since 1982. Men such as this, we can call them narcissists, we can call them sociopath. People like to use all these fancy names. But one thing that's for sure, certain men like this understand they have to die while sitting on the throne of power. If not, the only way to get them out of the throne of power is through violence. That's it.
Interesting. I had a. Oh, but let's. So just everyone, we're watching Black. You're watching Black Canada, talking with myself, Dr. Vibe, and Cesar Ndema-Moussa. If you want to call in, if you got a question or take, please use whatever device, digital device, tablet, phone, smartphone. You don't have a dial-up number, but desktop, laptop, go to your favorite browser, put in callme.rode.com. When you get to that page, put in the code FSPL8L, override the code that's in there, put in your name, and put in your name and say join call, hit the join call. You can come in live. Cesar, I got an interesting take I heard about the authoritarianism. Commentator said that Americans feel that crime is a problem. Agreed on that. But the thing is, 47 is looking at his force, but he's not looking at the root causes of crime. The inequality, the poverty is being ignored.
He doesn't care. Why would he care? Why would he care? This is a man who inherited a fortune from his father, Fred Trump, if I recall the name of his father.
Yes, I believe
This
that's
is
his name.
this is a man, yes, Fred Trump, because his older brother, so the first son is Fred Trump Jr., but he wasn't of the character of Donald, and he got pushed away. That's why his daughter, Mary Trump, is the one who notably, look at me, here I am knowing the family of Donald Trump. Oh, what a shame. But he doesn't care, he doesn't have to. When you've lived a life in terms of which you look at, for example, Donald Trump, doing anything and everything to avoid addressing, being honest and open about the Epstein situation, he's always gotten away with things. When you look in terms of geopolitics, the tariffs, but also his measure are, as we're speaking right now, Donald Trump, on the Dr. Vibe, on the other side of the world, there is, my gosh, there's the SCO conference or summit that's happening right now. The SCO stands for the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, if I get the name right.
Okay.
SCO, Shanghai Cooperation Organization. I said Shanghai, you're thinking China. Absolutely. But guess who else is invited over there? Vladimir Putin of Russia, Narendra Modi of India. So you're literally having, among those other countries, Russia and India coming together, hosted by China, among other countries.
Mm-hmm.
There are 40+% of the global population, but look at also the size of the economy. And when they're invited like that, you have others who are invited. At the same time, I think it was last week or later on, you had the conference, the summit of, I forget the acronym for this one, China and Arab nations. Donald Trump, and I mean, it's good. A multipolar world is good. But this is of the fall of America. Meanwhile, you have his uneducated masses, aka MAGA, and far too many cowardly Republicans who are too scared to step up to him and will refuse to see the factual reality for what it is. I am not here in any way advocating for the maintaining of any empire or hegemony, whether it's America or any other, even if you are of my own birth country of Cameroon. Absolutely not. I oppose any supremacy. You put any word in front of it, notably black supremacy, I would oppose it. That is not the question. However, the consequences will be felt by the common man, woman, child, and senior person, not just living in the United States, but also living in other countries. And when they're invited like that, you have others who are invited. At the same time, I think it was last week or later on, you had the conference, the summit of China and Arab nations. The SCO conference or summit, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. not just living in the United States, whole world as a whole. Let's not forget that when what's his name, Elon Musk, was heading the wrongfully called Department of Government Efficiency, you had notably in Eswatini, people who lost their employment, and with the loss of employment, you end up having what? Rising crime, people not getting medication for the HIV treatment, etc., etc. The ripple effects are not just in regards to the United States. Now, it is great that for a country like Canada, it has awakened some patriotism. It is great that Mexico and the president, Sheinbaum, but also Brazil, etc. That's great. But for the most vulnerable of us on this ball in space that we call Earth, the way and the manner of Trump, notably with his rising authoritarianism, to remain in power because he wishes, he envies Vladimir Putin, President Xi Jinping, dictator Kim Jong il, because he envies them. It is creating tragedies all over the world. And the biggest tragedy might just be another January 6th. It might be a January 6th from the left, but it might also be a January 6th from people on the right who will start to see Trump, the person they put in power, for who he truly is. Like I said, it's one thing to defend Trump at any cost, including the big ugly bill, including the treatment towards migrants. Oh, he said he was going to deport the criminals, but now he's deporting Jose and Jesus, who are good guys. But, he must know what he's doing. You can defend Trump as much as you want. But when the bills for mom or grandma's Medicaid, Medicare, medication, you name it, and the food prices are increasing. And like I said, in a couple of months, it will be that time of the year when people have been conditioned, notably in the Western world, to buy, to consume, because it's the holiday period, it's Christmas. What did Donald Trump say? Oh, well, maybe they don't need so many dolls or so many toys. They need less. When it's never been a concern for him. These
No,
are
it
the
hasn't.
consequences. These are the consequences, the many consequences of this authoritarianism and the impact it will have on so many people, on top of the loss of the freedom of speech, which goes alongside freedom of action and movement, notably to protest, aka people being profiled and suffering the consequences in the job. The AG Pam Bondi did fire people, federal workers, federal servants, public servants, who have attended protests against Trump's policies. Can you imagine in Canada people losing their employment for protesting against Carney, for protesting against Ford? All these freedom truckers, how many of them lost their jobs?
None of them, unless they were convicted.
It's the
A lot
down.
of them
Yes,
weren't.
this is a step. Trump is a step on the gas of the fall of USA, but also of democracies in the Western world. And the danger becomes that much more apparent when, and here, allow me to give a shout out to our brother, director Spike Lee, on his great documentary on Netflix regarding Katrina, I think Come Hell and High Water.
Hmm.
My wife recommended that to me, and I finished watching it earlier today. Who are the most marginalized? The people will suffer worse of climate change, such as Katrina, and the people will suffer worse of things such as COVID. Can you take a guess who are likely to suffer
Yeah.
worse of
Hey,
the geopolitical degradation
yeah,
to that level?
Aisha and Dr. Tachi talked about it at length yesterday. And for people, it is the 20-year anniversary of Hurricane Katrina, and it's never ever even coming to, especially for Black and Brown people. The full recovery is so still far away.
There you go. So, climate change like Katrina, such a thing as COVID, from uh, up, pointing out to social determinants of health for each and everyone, but then you have the degradation of geopolitics, domestic politics and geopolitics. Who are the ones most impacted? When Trump is taking these measures, the National Guards are not there making life harder for the well off in the white neighborhoods. The cities that is sending that is sending National Guards to, tend to, from what has been noticed, they tend to have black mayors.
Yep.
Los Angeles, DC, Chicago, Baltimore, black mayors, if not governors, if not a city you think of and you're thinking black population. White supremacy walks with Christian fascism, and it takes this blonde hair slash orange man of a president, convicted felon. One was rap sheet, and I hate to use the term rap in honor to our black music here, but one was rap sheet would have most men never want their daughter to date such a man, to bring such a man home. And yet, his fans will claim to be so Christian, so patriotic. What is it that they say again? They back the blue. Yet Trump freed and pardoned all those insurrectionists, aka criminals, who attacked police. I rest my case. And
All
it's
right.
embarrassing that I can say this in a matter of a few minutes. And the Biden administration had 4 years to prosecute and jail such a man, and they did it because they were scared of the MAGA crowd. That's what it was. But if it was Khalil Muhammad, the black supremacist, if it was Osama bin Laden, if it was, who knows, RuPaul and the LGBTQ army, they wouldn't have hesitated a second. This tells you the type of country that we live in, the type of leadership that we have. In the same way as right here in Canada, let's not be hypocrites. February 2022, the Freedom Convoy in Ottawa. If it was a bunch of black dudes on that Freedom Convoy, or a bunch of Muslim dudes, or the LGBTQ Freedom Convoy coming to occupy downtown Ottawa for 2 or 3 weeks, nobody has a doubt it would have ended up bloody.
All right. We don't. I know Cesar's time is tight, and I did say
Yes,
want
yes,
to
yes.
get his quick thoughts and suggestions for black parents for back to school for themselves and their kids. And we will do a longer segment on this because Cesar is very engaged on the front line when it comes to social services, black parents, black children. But in lieu that we're a few days away from the starting of school, I'd just like to get some of your quick takes on any suggestions you have.
Yes, thank you so much. And please, Dr. Vibe, allow me to give you credit because it is you who had suggested this topic.
My pleasure.
I want to make sure for our people, first of all, I am a first time father. This week, our daughter, so my spouse and I, first time parent, our daughter began kindergarten this week. Since September of last year, she was doing preschool. And some of the recommendations that I'm making here are not so much as a parent per se, but notably as an educator who has been uh, in the school system and notably training and educating school teachers, but also principals and administration, school board administration, I should say. Be involved in the school life of your child. From the start, it's at home. It starts at home, not at the school. Let us try to make sure that our children, especially black children, have positive reinforcement through affirmations. With my daughter, we practice telling her, and she knows She has 3 lines of affirmations, 3 sets of affirmations that her mother and I developed. I am intelligent. I'm beautiful. I'm brave. I'm black and proud. My name is, and I love me. First set. Second set, thumbs up, fist bump, Wakanda forever, black power. Third set, I love you, je t'aime, ti amo, te quiero, ich liebe dich, natondiwa, in her African language, Douala. Positive reinforcement for the child to know they're loved, to know that they're able, to know that they have the ancestors supporting them, not alone, to make sure to empower them that they're not just going to school and just another body in the school. They have a great destiny, and you, as the parent, are there to help them carve it. Strongly suggest for our black parents, and please, I know this may offend some people, but we need to have that conversation. Little background 2020, March or February, but it was before the pandemic, a school, actually, it's a high school close to where I live, had called me to address parents because overwhelmingly, and yes, we can think about discrimination, but let's pay attention here. Overwhelmingly, non-white parents slash immigrant parents, but especially black parents, they don't show up for academic meetings such as parents and teachers nights, but they show up for cultural events that notably include free food. Dear black parents, parents as a whole, please get involved in the academic life of your child. Meet the parent, meet the teachers, know their names, and do show up when those meetings are happening. You want to do better? I enlisted, despite my busy schedule, and I like to say everybody's busy. Guess what? The homeless person on the street is busy too. They're busy trying to stay warm and they're busy trying to find a meal. Even though the homeless on the street, despite my busy schedule, I enlisted to be on the school board council of the school so that I can represent and advocate for not only my child, but all the other black children who are there. And as I put my child in a Catholic school, so it may be surprising to people, oh, Cesar, but you speak on religion, but you put your daughter in a Christian school. How can that be? I'm a consultant, notably for the Catholic School Board. There's no contradiction here. Furthermore, because in the Christian schools, notably Catholic School Board, at least here in Ontario, so this may surprise a lot of people, you have non-Christian kids in those schools. You have some Muslim kids and you have some Jewish kids. You just need to make sure that your child is non-Christian. They're not going to reject your child. And let's be honest, Catholic schools tend to have a better education system. But you have to be involved. And as such, I added to my plate to be on the school board, not only for my daughter, but also for those other children. Dr. Vibe, let me share to you something that had happened. Can't remember if it was 2019 or maybe 2018. A black kid who cried in my arms. I think he cried. I might be wrong, but I think he cried in my arms because the parent never showed up for the parent-teachers meetings. And as such, he himself, high school, had become able to see there was a difference in treatment of the teachers towards him versus those white kids whose parents did show up. It's an uncomfortable conversation, but we need to have it in the black community. Do show up for your kid. It's not enough to just have the kid in the school bus or the kid coming back home. No, show up for the kid. Know the name of the teachers. Inquire. It's not just about waiting for the grades. Spend time with the kids. Speak to them in French if you speak French, or have them to learn French. Have them watch a show in French so they can learn, so they can improve. Go beyond the school curriculum. Take your kids to the museum. Buy them the books. We have a fundamental problem in the Black community in which the literacy levels are lower than the average. Of course, systemic racism has a part to play with it. But to what extent do we point the finger to blame the system and every other issues, notably? And at what moment do we look at those fingers looking back at us and say, what can I do for my child? Which is also for yourself. Because it's not enough to hope and wish that your child becomes the next person in the NBA or NFL, CFL, or to go play football/soccer in Europe, or lately to become the next black girl magic in tennis. No. No. So please, dear Black parents and parents as a whole, do get involved. Do get involved. Let me give a perfect example that I think any Black person listening will understand. A fundamental issue in our Black community is how we have so many Black parents. And I'm saying this as an educator because I heard it from many Black children in French and English schools, in Catholic and public schools. Far too many Black parents would tell their children to go read, and yet the kids, high schoolers, are there in high schools telling me, they told me many times they would say this to the white teachers, but telling me they never see their parents read. So be the role model of what you preach. Turn off the BCK, brain cell killer, dumb shows. Whether it's something about housewives in Miami or Love is Blind or 90 Day, something, whatever the titles are, or Kardashian. Watch the news. Understand better what's going on. Get your kid to go to that protest. Get your kid to buy the Black history books for a sense of pride, a sense of self, a sense of community. It's not enough that January comes and most of our Black kids only know, well, yeah, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Nelson Mandela, Barack Obama, Michelle Obama. Whoa. There's a long list of Black kings and queens from ancient Egypt to today, right now. There's a long list of Black inventors from ancient Egypt right now. How many Black children know that the first polymath means a genius in multiple fields? How many Black children, to be fair, including even white children, but how many Black children know the first polymath in history is a Black man? How many Black parents even know this? If I tell you that Leonardo da Vinci, my 4-year-old daughter knows the name Leonardo da Vinci because I educated her regarding the Renaissance painters and the names matching with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Raphael, Michelangelo, Donatello, and Leonardo. So if I tell people that Leonardo da Vinci is a polymath, oh yes, of course. How many of our people make the connection that Imhotep, builder of the first pyramid in Kemet, ancient pharaonic Black Egypt, because there are still people who are trying to convince us that ancient Egyptian in 40, 50 degree under the sun in the desert of Africa were white. Imhotep, the first polymath, such a genius, the ancient Greeks turned him into a god. If we don't teach our story, if we don't show the way, if we don't sit down with our children, we reach the end of the year and we talk about Kwanzaa, it makes no sense to them. We reach January 1st, we talk about Subjumu, Haitian pride, makes no sense to them. We reach all these events that make no sense to them, but guess what? Easter makes sense to them. Canada Day makes sense to them.
Mm-hmm.
Christmas makes sense to them because that's the general culture. And then Eid, Ramadan makes sense to them. All of these due to and religious alienation, but their own identity, the roots, does not make sense to them if they don't see the parents be the role models of what they preach. They don't see the parents take the time. They don't see the involvement of the parents. They don't see the father or the mother be the community dad, the community mom. The grandmas are dying. Too many grandpas are already dead or they're absent. And those who are present, they can't be there to fulfill the roles of everyone else. So let us be the community dads and community moms, the community uncles and the community aunties, but the role models to shape a better Black generation, especially in this tech age, especially in this age of white supremacy coming back in full force. I was listening to Urban View Radio, the African American radio on Sirius XM, in which someone was talking about how back in the 60s and 70s, Black youth knew what to do regarding police brutality and addressing the ongoing racism because they were born under segregation. They lived it. But now we have a generation that thinks we are in a post-racial world. Of course, Obama was wrong in saying that, just as Michelle Obama was wrong in saying, when they go low, we aim high. BS. The reality is now. And in that reality, we can't just wait to February to raise our face and claim Black power, Black pride, if we don't do the work all year long. Allow me to give a shout out as I say this to next weekend. There is the Afro Festival in Ottawa, and I invite many people. I don't even know who the sponsors are, but this is very much what I'm saying. Too many of our people rush to Caribana, excuse my language, to shake the butt and try to pick up without any Black pride, any Black consciousness, because if there truly was, it wouldn't be owned by the white-owned banks. So that's a reflection on us. Too many of our people are in the superficial, the surface level, the symbolic, but they're missing in action for what really matters.
All right.
And I hate that it will take the reinforcement of racist policies for many of our people to awaken. And please, white women having given birth to mixed children, more white men married to Black women, more white people saying my grandchild is mixed or my child is Black. I was watching on Netflix this series, 0 Day, with Robert De Niro. And at one time, in one segment, there's Robert De Niro in his office with this white woman, I think Mary Britton or whatever her name is, his chief of staff. It made me laugh in a good way. Robert De Niro has biologically Black children, and that lady, his chief of staff, not only does she have white children, but she also has adopted Black children. So you're looking on the screen, you're seeing two white people, but they have Black children. Let us never forget to value the allies, but by allies, I'm talking about those who are not just perpetrating fetishism and cliche images and behaviors of Black people, those who truly care, those who are involved, and those who are standing up to our side in the fight for social justice.
Okay. We'll end it off at that. We've had some quick comments at the end. Free Willis there saying, always good to see you guys. He also says, fathers need to stand up. The ladies are trying to. White supremacy has had a stranglehold on all people.
Well said. Well said.
Well said. Absolutely. So as we close it down today, a few things. First off, you want to get a hold of Cesar, again, president at Roots and Culture Canada, or Facebook, Cesar Remy Emery. And again, if you're watching this live on the replay, you can just swipe the QR code that's beside Cesar. It will take you right to his Facebook page. As always, you can, don't want to put this up yet, because subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube and hit the notification button. Also, like the Dr. Vibe Show on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, and Substack to advertise your business, product, or service on any of the platforms that I'm a part of. Feel free to email me, Dr. Period VIBE at the DR, VIBESHOW.com. If you want to find out more about me, I've made it simple now. Easy. All you have to do is just go to one link. That's it. One link. So that's the link that's in the screen right now. And also you can watch replays of this epic conversation on the Dr. Vibe Show on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and the Dr. Vibe Show website. And just before we leave, actually, as we're doing that, I'm just going to send out this information to everybody where people can get a hold of us, because I didn't get a chance to do that today. And again, because I'm doing producing again, forgive me if I didn't get everything out that you're used to at all the time, but we're managing. So I'm just going to do it really quick to get out Cesar's contact information also, because I don't want, it's in the comments section, because I don't want to sell him short and give him his just due. So people just bear with me quickly as I do that really quick. I do that quickly as I do it really quick. Double entendre. All right. And let me just do that. And 30 more seconds, people. 30 more seconds, and you will have you out of here. So this is, as I said, first time in a while, but I'll have it more under control the next time we are together. And let's do this. All right. All right. As always, live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get smaller to get stronger. Block assumptions. Aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. Don't just manage your time, manage your energy. Remember to give yourself grace. And if you're not making money, make history, but try to do both. And I see here there's a whole bunch of people that have come in at the end. Please watch the replay then. If you're just coming in now, watch the replay. All right? As I said, and if you're not making money, make history, but try to do both. And always make it better. Cesar, I want to say thank you as always. We got through the summer. Now, as you said, winter is coming. Winter is coming. Do you have any quick predictions for the winter?
Say, these tariffs, this situation will have an impact as we get notably, with the Christmas holidays. But people, check your mental health, mind yourself, manage yourself, and be kind to yourself. Be involved with the kids, from homeworks to bath time, and forgive yourselves and try again.
I
The
like that.
times that are
Forgive
coming
yourself.
will
I
be
like
hard.
that. Forgive yourself.
The times that are coming will be hard, and they will be harder. So let us try to be good to ourselves in order to be more resilient.
All right. On that note, God bless. Peace be well. Keep the faith, walk good, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you. Just take a quick moment.
Yeah.
You just introduce yourself. Let Dr. Vibe welcome you into the show. As I told you, Dr. Vibe.
No. I welcome and really good to have you here. I didn't want to. You were on a roll. I didn't want to interrupt. You were on a roll, but
In an world created by whites, dominated by whites, run by whites. And you're a billionaire, bro. FYI, I don't. It's probably the first time of the year that I use the word bro.
yes, it is. That's the first time, as long as I've known you, you used it.
My daughter would laugh.
But for many people, the economy ain't great. There we go. I saw that.